What if I told you that our generation is witnessing the synthesis of all major forms of art into a single entity? Yes, mankind is experiencing a great change in the way that we express ourselves. Art has been evolving for the last 4 millennia. Today I plan to tell you the next great form of art, video games. I will tell you what art is, the opposition's view on video games as being the next form of art, and prove to you all that video games are indeed art. Art is defined as a way of communicating ideas to an audience in a way that the audience finds engaging. Art's story is one of evolution, from the very first sketches to the masterpieces that are world-renowned today. The first paintings were cave paintings that, by today's standards, are chicken scratch. Over time, the practice of painting evolved and grew into what it is today, but that makes it no less of a form of art. The same is true with vocal art forms. First used as some form of warning, and evolved into song. Writing to record the amount of wheat harvested or the amount of money owed. Now, however, writing comes together in novels to tell brilliant stories that show how the writer perceives the world. Art is simply a way for man to express himself through unconventional means. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times said something that set off the gaming community because it was so close-minded. Video games can never be art. My initial response to this was of anger. Then I thought, never's a long time. Roger backs up his statement with the quote, "To my knowledge, no one in or out of the field has ever been able to cite a game worthy of comparison with the great dramatists, poets, filmmakers, novelists, and composers." People like this are so naive to assume things of that excellence of this new medium barely 40 years old. Most other forms were around for thousands of years before they were perfected. They cannot perceive that a video game could possibly evoke the emotions that a novel does, or show the satirical nature of the world as some movies can. They also think that because mainstream video games adhere to government rating systems, they censor themselves, making them illegitimate. Sadly, even a video game critic is quoted in saying, "Art, you see, is allowed to stretch the boundaries of mainstream culture. It is allowed to shock and to offend, to reach for something beyond the bounds of good taste." Michael Zeng, of all people, should be aware of the level in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, where the player has the ability to massacre Russian citizens. I've played this level twice, on different difficulties, and the first time, I could do nothing but move through the level, awestruck. It was both amazingly realistic and horrifying at the same time. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced in a game before, comparable to reading parts of Elie Wiesel's Night. Another argument against video games being art is that they can be won. Roger Ebert is also quoted in saying, "One obvious difference between art and games is that you can win a game. It has rules, points, objectives, and an outcome. Stories, novels, plays, dance, and films are things you cannot win. You can only experience them. Yet if you have played through the single-player mode of most games, be they first-person shooters or adventure games, there is an intricate storyline that the player as the character completes. Games have not been won since arcades, when the games would have a very linear approach to them. Eliminate the enemies without being eliminated. Save the princess from the villain." Sounds familiar, right? Well, the earliest movies were much like this too. Silent films usually focused on one emotion, excitement or fear. And as the audience matured, so did their demands for higher entertainment. The same is true for games. Games have achieved evolution not only in content, but also in what the audience wants. Games we played as children do not satisfy us all equally as the ones we play now. We long for stronger stories, more emotion, and more involvement all at the same time, forcing developers to reach into their souls instead of producing basic side-scrolling levels. Enter Shigeru Miyamoto. He was the man that made the video game comparison of chicken scratch for this new medium. However, as the technology developed, so did his games. With the development of this new technology, Miyamoto was able to divulge more of the story that was in his heart. And his story was influenced by his experience as a child exploring rural Japan, and he expressed his feelings through this new medium. Now games have evolved to represent how the developer perceives society today. They can be designed to express experiences that the developer had and thereby teaches a lesson to the player by evoking thought and feeling. Video games are a synthesis of every other art medium, vocals, visuals, and interaction. They are becoming more and more effective, more and more emotive, and can express more than they could 5 years ago, let alone 40. We have this great opportunity as a generation to see a new medium grow into its maturity and fulfill its ability to convey one's feelings to a greater audience. Don't turn your back on it.